Okay, hopefully I recorded correctly. I think that's the first time I've ever actually recorded a Zoom meeting. So, okay, so welcome everybody to our third workshop in our workshop series. Today's topic is focused on how, our office engages with industry and potentially some tips that all of you can consider if you go out and decide to try to find industry partnerships. I'll introduce myself and I'll pass it off to Hozhabr to introduce himself. So my name is Parker Abbott. I'm a postdoc with the UIRF. I've been at the office for about a little over a year. I'll let Hojab introduce himself really briefly.
Thank you all for staying with us. It's week three, and nice to meet you. I'm Hozhabr Mozafari. I'm one of the licensing associates at UIRF. My background is in engineering, and I hope you all enjoy today's webinar.
Yeah, so Hojab's going to take over at the second half. He has a presentation that's focused a bit more on how to use LinkedIn and to engage industry that way. But I'll start things off just by just sort of discussing a way that we often engage in sort of a front lines approach for contacting industry and trying to form some of these partnerships that help technologies get out into the world. So again, here we are on our timeline. So workshop three, we have again our final workshop is next week on February 5th, which will be sort of navigating industry opportunities. And today's workshop goals are really to help all of you and to show what we do as an office to identify a strategy for marketing technologies to industry. And I kind of mentioned it's really sort of a cold frontline approach that I'm going to be highlighting today. And then through this, you're going to hopefully learn in ways that this is the way to identify potential companies and identify partners that can help establish relationships with industry. And then Hojab will take it over at the second half to really highlight and help you all understand the importance of having LinkedIn and using it to network with industry individuals. And so why do we really market technologies to industry? Why do we need to engage with them and form these partnerships? And it's really, three major prongs to that question. This is really the best way to get technology out into society so that we can help benefit the people that we're often trying to attempt to solve, either treat diseases or solve problems that are, plaguing society or just difficult problems that we all need to overcome. And industry is going to be the best way to really get that out into society. And then ultimately, if we do that, it's going to generate revenue, which is going to come back to you as an inventor, the university, your department to help further promote research that can, you know, to take your technology to the next level. And then ultimately, we're trying to form a partnership with industry that can, like I mentioned, come back and really promote further research and development of a technology that you might be working on. And we sort of think of this as a very cyclical, dynamic process. So our office is going to approach this with this sort of approach where we start at the top, where we want to find a way to craft some sort of a marketing material that can be easy to read, easy to pass around, pass off to industry so that they can see it and really identify what is the key aspect of this technology that is a reason why I should decide to partner with them. And once we sort of do that, I'm going to highlight how we try to find potential partners and then find ways to reach out to them. And then ideally, once you've reached out to some of these individuals, we'll hopefully get into some sort of a non-confidential discussion with industry that can either produce feedback for your technology or potentially develop some sort of a partnership that can either commercialize it or further develop that. And then, it's sort of at the end of this, we're going to kind of come back to the beginning and back to square one and try to think, what do we need to do differently now to maybe make a different targeted approach to find potential partners. And so it really starts with that first step of crafting marketing materials. And so this is really the best way to highlight your technology. And in theory, this is sort of going to be a very clean document, and I'll show you on the next slide in practice what that looks like. But it's going to start off with, a title that's really short, descriptive, describes your technology. It should hopefully describe, if you're targeting some sort of a disease, if this is the first time it's being used, if it's a method that's, really important for a process that's going to streamline some aspect of that field. So it's really sort of the best. This is the eye-catching moment where they're going to see this, and it's going to be enough to be like, okay, this is worth, looking into and potentially having a conversation with this person about this technology. And then you'll want to emphasize that, if you're the lead inventor, like this is my technology and it's going to link back, you can, highlight your lab so that if a company might be interested, they can go and look and see, oh, there's other research projects that you're working on and, to kind of keep them informed and abreast of what else you're working on. And then importantly, we like to emphasize that, what sort of state the intellectual property protection might be in. So if you have, patent pending, it's important for industry to see that. It's going to help them show that, this technology is in stages to really give them a commercial edge and a competitive advantage if they really want to pursue this technology and, have that IP protection on their side. And then it's going to have a very brief description that doesn't really go into tons of details about the technology, but it's just enough to really describe what is the problem that your technology is, aiming to solve, and then how is this technology really different than what might be already available, and if it's better than, what is already being used currently. And then really importantly are just key advantages that are the easiest takeaway that, if somebody's looking at this, they can just glance at it and be like, this is why I should care about this. These are 2 to 4 key elements that really make this technology stand out. And then finally listing, where is this along? Have, in vivo studies been completed for it? Are there any publications related to it that can sort of provide further information? And so in practice, this really looks like a very clean document where you have title up at the top, inventor, and then it's going to have this sort of short 2 paragraph description that really just goes into the problem in the industry, what this technology solves, finish it off with those sort of key advantages, and then talk about the stage of development where it is experimentally, and then any related publications. So these are nice documents to include as you're reaching out to industry that and is often what we include so that if you pass it off to a company, this is a clean document they can then look at very easily and pass off to, anybody else that might be interested within the company. Just a quick info blast for them to really get the gist of it. So after that, now you have this document. So now it's important. Okay, we need to find an actual company and people to contact to send this information out to. And the way that we do this is using a few resources that we have access to. One way is really just kind of keeping in tune with industry trend newsletters. So I'm subscribed to, for instance, in biotech, there's the Fierce newsletter series where you can easily keep up with what companies might be doing, where they are, if they're running clinical trials for particular diseases or pharmaceuticals. And then it's just a good way to, kind of keep up with the trends of your specific field. Another tool that we have is PitchBook, which we have access through the University of Iowa. This is a great resource if you identify a company, you can use this database to find other companies that are also relevant in the same space as what that company might be working in. We also like to use, since we have access to it, generative AI and getting really good at prompt engineering for asking the AI in a very non-enabling way. I have this technology. Are there any companies that are working in this space? And it's pretty good at giving out outputs for particular companies that are working in that space. And then Hozhabr will get into, really the importance of LinkedIn and using this to, it's a great database for finding employees once you've identified them to see, are they still working at that company? Do they have the correct job title? Is this somebody I could reach out to and potentially get in contact with? And then, as you find companies, it's always good to visit their websites because there's going to be a lot of good information on there. They often do have portals on there if you need to submit. For instance, if we're just rather than going through an email, they do have portals to just submit technologies to a generic inbox where people might be taking a look at technologies that are coming in. And as we're doing this, we're also looking for particular individuals at these companies that sort of fit into these bins of particular job titles. So we're looking for people that are in business development, corporate development. Really, business is a good keyword as you're looking for these individuals. They're involved with business side of the company. They're trying to find and search and evaluate technologies that they can potentially license in. And it's always good to kind of keep, if you're in a specific field, whether or not that individual works within that field, sort of a more direct connection for them to really understand at first glance if you send them an email, they can really comprehend why your technology might be really important for their company. So now that we've done that, what we're going to do is send an email to these individuals. And this is a very cold approach. We have their contact information. We're just going to try to send an email that really catches their attention to try to see if we can either get any feedback from them or potentially set up any sort of meeting. We have found that, if you highlight sometimes if you're a student or a postdoc, so in my case, I have that advantage. I can send these emails and say I'm a postdoc with the University of Iowa, can potentially improve some of these response rates because I think often if they see that they're a licensing associate, they kind of know immediately, okay, this is somebody that's reaching out to have some sort of a licensing opportunity. It's really anecdotal. We just have some thought that, this can potentially boost some of these response rates from industry. From there, give a really, really short description of what your technology is and really importantly, what kind of partnership you're looking for because you want them to understand why you're reaching out to this individual. What do you want with this company and what do they have to offer for your particular technology? It's always good to really personalize the email, include any sort of company names, reference back to them, and then really key mentioning any feedback you have because that's really the best thing you can get from this is feedback. It might be good or bad. They can tell you, really a number of different things. And I'm going to show you two different responses that I typically would expect if I send an email to somebody in industry with this same sort of principled approach. And then again, we're going to attach, we wrote that, we have that nice clean summary to attach. We can mention that we attached it, and now they have this to potentially pass off to anybody else that might be interested. So now you get this response from the company and they say, oh, we're no longer, looking into anything that's related to that. So it's going to be really hard for us to kind of pursue that. They might mention they appreciate that. This is still really good to get from them because now you can respond back and just keep that relationship going and say, thanks for reviewing it. It's thanks for letting us know that it falls outside of your scope. But just kind of mention that, we'll connect with them if anything changes or, if you maybe potentially, I don't know, if any of their interests change, just good to keep that door open. So another response that could be very exciting that you get in this case, they may want to learn more about your technology. And I've often seen this a few times where they ask, is there a slide deck that you have that you can send to us that really describes your technology? So now they're asking for this next step. And so it's good to be really prepared if you're at this step that you have these materials ready to go and you can send them off so that the window of time where you're responding is pretty short and it's still in their attention span. So then you'd want to immediately respond and say, yep, oh, thanks for reviewing that. I can certainly get back to you with that and hopefully keep the conversation going from there. Ideally, once you're at this point, they've maybe reviewed a slide deck that you sent them, and you might get to this point where now you're going to have a non-confidential meeting. And all of us are pretty probably familiar with the typical structure of an academic talk. It's going to have really extensive background to really contextualize what you're working on and how what you do fits into the overall narrative of your scientific problem. Really deep methodological explanations and providing a lot of your interpretations and inclusions that help everybody understand the context of how your scientific answers fit into the field. But the non-confidential talk is it's a bit more different. It's going to be a lot shorter, so you really need to have that very succinct presentation ready to go, where it's going to be just enough background to really highlight the problem and how your solution solves it, pretty minimal on methods, and it's really good to just sort of have 2 to 3 key data figures that tell the story without providing any sort of enabling information. And then finishing off with that ask to really emphasize to the industry partner what you're hoping to get out of potentially working with them. And I have an asterisk down here because our office has prepared a technology slide deck template for anybody that ever gets to this point where you're pushing a technology to industry and you might get asked this. We're more than happy to help set that up and prepare those materials. And really with all this, like, you kind of want to step back so you get some of this feedback. You have to kind of think, okay, is the timing right? Did I reach out to the company at the appropriate stage for my technology? Is there any need for your technology right now in this current moment? Another thing that I think about is what day of the week are you potentially sending these emails? So sometimes I think a lot of people sending emails on Monday, they could get deep down in their inbox from other emails that have come in over the weekend, being careful about sending emails on holidays. So really just a small aspect of the time to think about, but really some of that feedback that you're going to get from these emails will indicate potentially, yes, this is the right time to be reaching out to people to try to build partnerships. But if not, they might still provide you with that feedback to, really help you kind of guide where to go next with developing your technology. So at that point, we've now made it full circle. And now we're going to kind of have to go back and think, okay, are there different ways that I can approach reaching out to industry? We maybe some of the partners that we were identifying were, a little too broad or a little too narrow. So now we want to try to find maybe potentially smaller companies, maybe startups, really cast a wider net than we did before. And also what we like to do is very strategic. When we reach out to companies, you'll reach out to one person at a time. So then you can then save the next leg of reaching out to individuals by finding somebody new at the company that you know, you may have better traction with getting some sort of a response with. So sort of being advantageous about still being persistent with that company, maybe finding somebody new to contact that again, may lead to something. And again, as I mentioned, you may get to this, you may have this discussion and you may get feedback that says, is the timing right? Is this developed enough? And so now you have to go back maybe to the lab and try to fine tune what you're working on to make it a little bit more fitting for what they're looking for. And this is kind of a nice segue into LinkedIn. So aside from just having these cold emails, there's a few different strategies we can use to at least keep industry informed of what is happening at the University of Iowa. And these are things that you can all think about in services that we offer as an office. So Hozhab's going to go into LinkedIn a little bit more in depth here next. But we do have a few different ways to just sort of passively market technologies, and that's through a database that we have available on our website. Our website also emphasizes and highlights a few new technologies that we might want to feature. And then again, tapping into any networks you might develop at conferences. If you meet people in industry, continue to reach out to them and try to, poke their mind and see, is this something that's worth getting out into industry hands and developing, a partnership to maybe license or further develop your technology. So with that, I can pass it off to Hojab. He's going to talk a bit about using LinkedIn as a way to engage with industry.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Parker. Excellent job. So, I was thinking about this part, and it's over 30, 40 hours of educational material on LinkedIn, marketing with LinkedIn. But the best way I was thinking of to start this was just giving you some basic steps and introduction to hopefully draw your attention and interest. And if you're really excited to invest in it, feel free to follow up with us. We'll be happy to share more materials. But the first thing I wanted to bring up is LinkedIn page. LinkedIn launched this LinkedIn pages in 2018, and the focus was to create a community and help with brand building. And it's a time-consuming thing, so I suggest that start it earlier, especially for our startups. Like for our office, we are now over 6,000 members, but 2023, when we started our LinkedIn efforts, we had less than 100 members. So these things take time, so it's better to start it earlier and get yourself familiarized with important things and optimizing different aspects of your page and build your community. And again, it's a community of professional. You can engage with your members, build relationship, and there are two important things you can gain with your LinkedIn page. The first one is Marketing Lab, and this is specifically for a business account. And I assume you all have your personal LinkedIn account. You browse and you check probably weekly or daily, but with business account, you can have access to Marketing Lab, and that's different than the Learning Hub. Learning Hub is on top right button. There are free courses. If you log in with your university account, you can get certificates and things like that. But the Marketing Lab specifically is designed for businesses, and they have four sections. over, I think, 17 courses. And at the end, you can take this exam called LinkedIn Marketing Insider. It's 4 hours, and then you can get that certificate, which is valuable for LinkedIn to recognize you as a certified marketer. And also, they'll open a community closed group for you to join in, and they'll share tricks and important updates about LinkedIn. And that's very helpful, especially for our startups, because in the beginning, it might be difficult for them to hire a marketing firm. It might be expensive, and it's a way to build up your marketing expertise using this feature, which is very valuable. But if you have more questions, I'll be happy to answer or follow up at the end. Um, and the second one is LinkedIn ad. LinkedIn ad is where you want to launch your paid ads. It's something on top of the organic post that you send out through your page. You can have access to that only if you have a LinkedIn page. Next slide. Um, okay. So here are two other important things that I wanted to add here. With your LinkedIn page, you can have access to publishing articles, long format. 500 to 1,000 words is suggested, and also you can have up to 5 newsletters. It means that when you build up your community, you will send out email notification to your subscribers or followers to your page related to a specific newsletter. Like you're trying to share part of the science that you're active in and the news about that to see who is excited to hear from you, and that's going to be one of your newsletter, up to 5. So it's very flexible, and that's valuable to stay connected with your community, to interact, and to share your thoughts, and and just strengthen that relationship that you have. And hopefully, it will be a fruitful relationship moving forward. Because again, brand building, brand equity takes so much time, and it's not like you start today and tomorrow you get results. So it's good to stay on top of that. And here are some best practices with a use your a strong headline and use the image if you have as a cover of your article, and make bullet points if you can, and always have a call to action for the reader of your article to know what's the next step. If you invite them to check your website, or if you invite them to send you an email or download a document, things like that, that'll be your call to action. And if you have other channels, feel free to reshare and reuse and repurpose your document. So you don't need to start from scratch on another platform. And that's very important to keep your effort manageable when you work with LinkedIn. Otherwise, it's just so time consuming and might be hectic. Um, and I think we covered the newsletter part. And yeah, let's go to the next slide. So with your LinkedIn page, you can have uh, key metrics that you can monitor and optimize your page and also your social presence overall. The first one is page activity. You can monitor what people do at your page on your page. Some people like to reshare your content with their community. Some people write comments or like, or however they interact with your post. You can monitor those and make decisions based on the page activity. The second type of analytics you can get is page analytics. And within this section, you can see things like um, your post performance, individual post performance, a number of impressions, a click-through rate, or you can also compare your page against other competitors. You can list up to 10 companies that are in the same field, and you're competing with those companies. You can check their page. You can see their growth rate versus your page, and that gives you an option to improve your page as you're moving forward. So there's a lot you can do with your LinkedIn analytic metrics. And on the side note, the footnote, the reference, that's the training marketing LinkedIn page. If you like to check that out, feel free to do so after this session. And let's go to the next slide. Let's assume that you have built your page and you've been posting organic content for some time, a year or two. You have created a community, a few thousand members, and now you have reached to the point with your company, a startup, wherever you are, to launch your product, to call for demand, to say, hey, I have this platform, I have this invention that can address your needs. You need something more than just your organic post. You need to extend your outreach. And LinkedIn page will give you the option to run paid ads. They use campaign, like marketing campaign term. So the first important thing is to define your objective. You don't want to launch a conversion campaign in the beginning because first thing you need to do is to create more awareness of your brand. And that's the first step on top of the marketing funnel, the brand awareness. With brand awareness, you don't need to ask for anything. You don't need to have call for action. You don't need to ask them to give their email addresses or click here or click or check website or anything. You just make an introduction like, I have this company and this is my product, and or even you can start with a question, did you know about our brand or things like that. So it's low effort for the reader, and for you as well. And you will use this down the line to create a group of people that have expressed initial interest to use them for the consideration phase. Consideration phase is type of ads that you have a call to action in a more directed way, because you know that this group of people that have already seen your awareness ad are willing to take the next step. So you will have things like click here to get connected, to have a meeting, to learn more about our invention or device that we have. And you create that relationship with that subgroup of people. And the conversion phase is the last phase, and it comes with loyalty to the brand. Here's where when you actually make the deal, you find your client, your customer, and finalize the agreement. So keep that in mind. That's for the objective. You can choose the objective of your ads within LinkedIn Campaign Manager. That's very easy. It's straightforward. But that's I just wanted to explain what that means here. The second thing is when you create your audience to target, you need to pay attention to the style of marketing here. We're not talking to B2C. It's a B2B marketing style, meaning that there is a group of people that making decisions, 6 to 10 probably. And when you create that group of people, you should consider that, okay, I have an R&D department, they're scientists, they care about the technical aspects. I can add them. Or we have also business development people. They care about their business priorities. Let's add those as well. So within a company, you have different people from different segments or sections of that company to include. And that's a team of decision makers. You can select all these things. I think we cover them later in this presentation, but uh, LinkedIn will give you a lot of options to create your audience and hopefully your persona and to help you to generate leads. Let's go to the next slide. Yep, here's the on the right side, there's a timeline, LinkedIn and how it started. Um, it started very small. It was just a place to look for jobs, find jobs, and things like that. 2003, and then I think Microsoft bought LinkedIn and invested a lot in it. And the growth is enormous. It's almost around 1 billion members, all professional, hopefully. So you have a group of people, a very large community, that you need to cut out a small portion of this as your audience. So it can be tricky because if your net is too wide, you're wasting your campaign money targeting people that are not even related. And if it's too narrow, it makes your ads so expensive because there's so much competition when LinkedIn is running your ad against someone else's ad. It's on a bidding system method. So on 2018, we talked about LinkedIn page. They launched that, and also they added two type of ads. One is video ads, which is very popular nowadays, and the second one is carousel ads. Carousel ads is a group of images, I think up to 10 images that you can have uh, within your ad, and people can just scroll or click and see the next one, next one. And However you want to design it, up to you, but some people use it as a way to promote their portfolio. Like you have 10 inventions or five field of research that you're working on, and you can select per each image. You can highlight one of your projects and all in one ad. It's very flexible, and it's something that they recently added. For audience, we mentioned that LinkedIn is doing a great job with giving you this feature to create your persona in a very granular level. The first one is company targeting. Let's say you have a list of company that you have used before or you have been interacting with in the past, and you want to use that list again within LinkedIn to launch LinkedIn ad and target those people within those companies. You can upload your list directly to LinkedIn, and LinkedIn uses that list and not only including those names, but also uh, creating a bigger basket, including other companies and members that are in the same field, same interest, and then you can review that, finalize it if it's good, make changes, and then launch your ad. You can do the same thing with contacts. Let's say you have been to a few conferences, you know some people that are interested in your work, and now you want to launch a campaign to target those people via LinkedIn, but also um, include people with similar interests within that campaign. You can upload the list of contacts here as well, and LinkedIn will use that to build your audience. And the last one is retargeting. This is very important. If you are following the full marketing funnel, you want to create that bigger list on awareness and then a sub list for consideration. And then you want to retarget those people who already expressed interest um, for the conversion phase because higher chances that that group of people are willing to purchase your product, to have a license agreement with you. Retargeting is a method that LinkedIn will give you. You can at the end of your campaign, you can have a list created for your original list, and the one way to do it is to have an inside tag on your website and collect information, and LinkedIn will generate that. So you don't need to use another like Google Analytics or anything else. LinkedIn will generate that directly. You can just go to your campaign manager and use that and work on it and launch your second campaign with different call to action and see what you get. So it's very flexible and comprehensive. I don't think I have anything else on this slide. Let's move on. So with reporting uh, uh, part of LinkedIn Manager, it's very exhaustive. You can get a lot of different things. The first one is your performance. You can monitor in real time. When you launch your ad, depending what your objective is, if it's awareness, your important metric is impression. How many people viewed my ad? And how much I paid per 1,000 impression, or yeah, 1,000. I think that's the way you calculate it, C or M probably. And you want to make sure you're not paying too much. Also, you want to make sure you're spending your marketing money because you don't want to end up with like 2 weeks of time period for your campaign, and I've already spent just less than 20% of your money. So it means that you haven't reached out to to enough people. Um, there are different ways to select and adjust how much money you want to spend, and or if you're not familiar with the bidding system, you can just leave it up to LinkedIn. It does it for you automatically, increase and decrease it. You can give it a range, you can give it a budget for the whole campaign, you can give it a budget per day, and all those things can be done within LinkedIn Campaign Manager. But anyway, the analytics you can get is impression, or you can get a number of clicks, number of likes shared, and things like that. And also you can get it's like a ranking system for the companies who viewed your post. Like here, Medtronic, they expressed a lot of interest. We got the highest number of impression from this company. Um, or you can cross out the companies that really didn't express any interest in your content. And you can use these again for your direct campaign like email campaign or another LinkedIn post just focusing on these companies' top performers. So, and we talked about the conversion tracking with Insight Tag. You can have that in your website. Site retargeting, we mentioned that, and also advanced demographics. You can see things like who among of those people who clicked on your post, how many of them were business development, how many of them were based in the US, and how many of them were seniors, and all those data can be collected through LinkedIn Campaign Manager. Um, I think that's it for this slide. So we briefly touched on difference between B2C versus B2B, but here's a summary you can compare, and it will help you to have a realistic expectation because you might run a LinkedIn ad and you might not get any response or anything, and it it's a little bit disappointing. But knowing this difference will help you to have expectation that is more realistic toward B2B and give you comfort that, okay, I'm not doing things wrong. It's just that's how things are with B2B, and I need to be patient and think about ways I can improve my performance, presence, and tweak things that need to be adjusted. So with B2C, it's about an individual. You see an ad or it's a commercial break in a football game, and they talk about I'm on internet. So it will just give you that idea like I need this and this is available, and they gave me 10% discount. So I'm going with this company. Short buying cycle and price is one of the priorities, discount, promotion, things like that. And emotion driven, the way that you see the ad, the way that the advertisers have designed it to be exciting, it will affect your decision making. You don't see those things. I mean, you see those things in B2B, but the presence of those elements are not as strong as, let's say, trust. Because with B2B, you have a team of decision makers and multiple stakeholders, and the process is very complex and it's time consuming. And it's based on data and measurement of KPIs or values that you might provide, and it's less emotional, it's less impulsive, and also the last part that is very important is only 5% of those buyers that you're trying to sell your product to are in the market in that time. An example of that is like legal advice or companies who buy computers. They look for services or parts every, let's say, 5, 10 years. So it's very rare that every time you promote your product, they express interest. You should keep doing it for few years, 3 years, 4 years to find that right time that the company needs what you have. Um, so I think that's about this slide. Yeah, this one talks about the frequency of your presence in LinkedIn. Uh, some people say if you post one document or one content per week, that's enough. Some people say no, you should post every single day. Um, can be correct or wrong, but the first important thing is how much time you have to invest in LinkedIn. And the second one is to try to make sure you have a stable presence based on your cadence so your audience won't be surprised or annoyed by just infrequent posting that you have. What we do here at the office, we have our Tech Tuesday posts. It's about promoting one of the inventions that is available for licensing every Tuesday. We try to stay on top of that. And on in this diagram, you see the lowest part is humming, always on. That's like a background noise you always hear, but it's there. But if you don't focus on it, you cannot hear it. So that can be your low effort post, like you're resharing the content from one of your connections with your own thoughts, or you are with RSS, you find something in news and you share that. It's very low key, but it puts you out there. People will see your name, see your page and your brand. The second one is your thing. You have something more important. You want to have a post with a call to action. You want to promote a product that you have. It's less frequent than humming, as you can see. For us, our singing is the Tech Tuesdays. And the humming for us is the news we have around the campus. Like our researchers, they secure the funding and their department promoted that through LinkedIn post. We reshare that content and we promote our PI. Uh, there's no call to action, nothing like that. It's just a post that create awareness about our PI or research and our office and the way that we have collaborated with them. So that's about humming and singing. With shout, that's the least frequent type of posting, and it goes for the biggest things that you have. Let's say you're in a startup and you're holding an event in Boston. That's massive. It's once a year. Those are the events that you want to promote massively within your community and probably within your LinkedIn ad and pay more to promote it. So um, the level of activity is the highest by the time the frequency is the lowest. So that's for the shout. If you're participating somewhere, if you want to have a LinkedIn webinar within LinkedIn and tell your audience about that, that can be your shout. Uh, I think that's about this one. And yeah, let's quickly review the content creation. Next one. So that was about the LinkedIn itself. Again, the content that we have here is like uh, so much, it's like 30, 40 hours, but we quickly trying to cover some aspects of it in a practical way. So when you create your LinkedIn post, be careful to not use stock images as much as you can or copycat other posts because that will stop you from building your own brand and the readers won't be excited that much about seeing what you have. They might see you as like a copycat. Like, try not to do that, and don't think about finding a perfect image or perfect content. Whatever you have, if it's original, put it out there. And also think about your theme, visual identity. Like here on this image, we have Iowa colors. We have the gold and black, and it's in line with our brand. And yeah, it says just the data shows that if you have a great creative, it will increase your performance if you're looking for buyers up to 10 to 20 times. It's just about the creation of your content. There's no science behind it. I mean, there is, but it's not like it's not related to specifically the science of your product. It's just a visual effect, a marketing, a skill that you use to promote your page and your content. Next one. So here's an example of a post that we created. It's a paid ad. We put it out there, but I just want to quickly talk about different elements. The first one is imagery, the picture. Use image as much as you can because you can get up to 10 or 11 times more impression if you have an image with your ad. Um, Try to keep it distinctive and consistent with your brand. The second one is the copy. Copy is the text that comes with the image on top. And up to 100 characters, you can see it. If you add more, you see that truncated text with three dots. That's not desirable because it makes it harder for the viewer to click to see the rest of the text, and that you will lose that time window. The reason I'm saying that because uh, we have a problem right now. I mean, right now is worse, but with the attention span. There was a study done in Canada. They studied over 100 participants, and they studied their EEG, brainwave scanner. And the first phase of the study was done in 2000, and the second phase was 2015. They measured their attention span, these participants. 2000, their attention span was around 15 seconds, but 2015, the attention span decreased to 8 seconds. That's less than a goldfish. So we're very distracted, and you don't want to add more steps for your viewer to click to see more. You just want to uh, tell as much as you can in a shorter period of time. For LinkedIn ads, you have 3 to 4 seconds to draw attention. That's very short time, but it should be enough for your viewer to see something and to create that interest in your viewer. The format of the content, you have text, you have video, you have carousel, we talked about, and feel free to use these in combination. You're very flexible to reuse your content and mix and match and things like that. And the last part is testing. You can run A to B test, compare your different ads you have, different elements, and optimize them as you go, and that will help you to lower your cost and improve your performance. And the last part um, is the device that your viewers will use. Based on our experience and also reports out there, 80 to 90% of your viewers are using cell phone. So be prepared to have your ad be seen on a 6-inch device. In here, we have a text, a novel technology to optimize biogas production. We wrote that on font size 20. But if you're not paying attention to this, you're like, okay, everybody's logging in LinkedIn, they have a big monitor. I write this text like size 12. So definitely you'll have some problem in terms of impression and click-through rate because the text will be too small. So prepare your ads considering that your viewers will see it on a very small screen size, 80 to 90%. That's like huge percentage difference. Next one. And we talked about imagery a little bit, but here is just a comparison. Um, the way our brain processes information. With image, you have simultaneous process. In parallel, you get information. I mean, our brain is designed uh, to receive image instead of reading text. We invented text, right? But we're not created with knowledge to read text. That's why it's less efficient. And then we like to see patterns. Consider that in your imagery when you design when you have your graphic design done in your post. A square shape, different elements that make a connection for the viewer to find that pattern, and it will keep them going to spend more time viewing your ad. Um, yeah, I think we discovered that all. The other thing is the timing that we mentioned. You have 3, 4 seconds uh, to bring up your ad to people's attention. And the one rule that we use is billboard rule. Based on that, again, 3 seconds. And that is basically same with like you're driving, you see a big, beautiful billboard, you pass, you don't stop. You pass and you have just 2, 3 seconds to take a look and go. Um, so with that, you're very limited with the number of words that you're putting on your billboard, the size of the text and the content. You want to make it simple. You want to have high contrast colors, and you want to use a font that is easy and it's less straining for eyes to read the content. But you can be flexible because people are on LinkedIn, they're not driving, they can stop if they want to and keep reading. So but just use this as a as a framework when you're working with text on your image when you make a thumbnail. And the other one is the last part is a the typograph, you see on the ad on the right side top, there's AI. That's a typograph. You use text to give it a shape, not just act as a part of the text, but also as a shape to give you a new angle to draw attention. So use that typograph if you can. Use different colors and highlight and bold important points. Don't make it crowded, keep it simple, and it's okay to have blank space. Don't try to fill every single pixel in your image. That can be used intentionally, blank space, because that will direct eye to a specific part of the image that is not blank. So you can use that intentionally. Um, that's about this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was right, Parker.
Yep. That
Okay.
concludes all the content that we had planned for workshop three. So again, just to remind everybody, we'll be meeting one more time next Thursday on February 5th to learn how to navigate industry opportunities. And with that, we can pause here, take any questions. If anyone wants to unmute themselves and ask anything, feel free. And as always, if you have any further questions, we're always happy to be reached via email. We can contact that way as well. And I guess if there are no questions, we can end here a little bit early. Just thanks to everybody for attending, and hopefully see you next week for our concluding workshop. Thanks, everybody.
Great presentation, guys.
Oh, wait, did
Yeah.
Samantha, do you have a question? I saw that. Oh, I saw a hand go up and an applause, so I wasn't.
You guys did a great job.
Yeah,
Thanks.
sorry about that. It was a bit mistake.
It's okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.